right? But it's world. Even in our bedrooms, the a form. It's I live in English. The internationalization of higher education. As it's my expertise area, English medium instruction, you will see that there is a tendency which prestigious. You know what a master key is? To a bright education in Turkey, we have English medium universities. But the first thing that comes to the mind, Anglophone context, European, Western European countries. So, I'm going to give you some contextual information about the status, the role of English currently. But first thing first, I'd like to mention how foreign language education is actually governed in Turkey, regulated. At the macro level, we have the Minister of National Education, responsible for these policy papers, curriculum, syllabus. At the meso level, we have the managers, the principals, the headmasters. Micro level, it's the teacher. You might have lots of posh statements in the policy, but at the micro level, I am the agent. It all depends on my efforts, to what extent I can put these decisions in the practices, or whether I could follow or actually. And to better the quality of, we often failed. Now I'd like to summarize some of the initiatives that have been taken so far to increase the quality of foreign language education. Next, please. Here, some basic information. What we have done in recent, we have lowered the age of learning English from 4th now to the 2nd grade. The earlier, the better mindset. And this is, again, a general tendency all around the world. I also believe maybe in a couple of years' time, it's going to be compulsory for kindergarten students to start learning English. Especially gamification, game-like learning, game-based learning, digital learning. They are getting quite widespread. What else? We have increased the number of English classes, depending on the level. High school level, higher levels of. We also introduced another policy. The 5th grade, we have some schools with intensive English classes compared to the general schools. Why? Because they see that we cannot actually reach the standards, the aims, the purposes that we just using something new. It's like a trial error. You keep trying. Okay, maybe this might work. Maybe this might work. Maybe we might hit better places in proficiency indexes. We will see the results later. Please, the next one. Lots of actually projects initiated in Turkey. DYNE, Dynamic Education, Fatih Project, movement to increase opportunities. Look, this was quite interesting. Once the government officials even discussed recruiting 40,000 foreign teachers as language teachers to accompany the English language teachers so that students could actually learn to use language for communicative purposes. But this project was never put into practice. What might be the number one reason? Any idea? Number one reason, number one, money, budget. Because they ask for more salaries compared to Turkish citizens. So it was never put into practice. Pocket is empty. As I say to my students, no money, no honey. No money, no native speaking teachers. Ali, fine. Go ahead. Now the recent one, 2023. They introduced another policy document, but which is not just for English, for all the branches of science, but for English, foreign language education. There are 3 major goals and sub-goals. One of the major goals, with the use of new sources, students will be allowed to experience English-speaking word. Under the subtitles, we see that they're going to introduce some TV channels in English. Cartoons will be actually shown for kids. But we are actually getting towards 2023. So far, none of these goals have been put into practice. They are all on paper, white papers. Next, please. Look at the curriculum, the recent one. By the way, do you know what a curriculum is? Simple definition curriculum. Syllabus. This slide seems to be much more actually interactive. So, what's a curriculum? Perfect answer. I couldn't hear, but yes, planning, right? It's of nice, the philosophy behind the language teaching. Assess the students right after teaching. Assessment is important. Lots of nice statements. Now, when we look at this statement, you will see language learning as communication, buzzwords, catchy words, the words that we like to hear. Authentic use of the language, like this. Life, English as it's used in real life. We will see whether this is the case or not. In reference to a global or nationwide study, the curriculum aims to make learning English interesting, engaging, and fun, as Dr. Galip suggested in the morning. Okay, next one, please. It goes on like this, fostering communicative skills, but previously there's also this self-criticism. There was a high level of importance attached to teaching grammar in Turkey. Grammar. We got grammar addicted. If the teacher does not teach grammar, we're like this. Grammar, grammar. Why? Previous years of education. We like to see on paper, it is easier for us. Communicate? No, I'm shy. I can't. I am going to make a mistake. My pronunciation will make the others laugh. I will be humiliated. Also, grammatical competence, but they say now all aspects of communicative competence will be taken into consideration. This is what is reported in the papers. But to be able to see the real language policy, we should look at the practices. What is happening inside the classroom? What the teacher is doing? How the students are learning the language? And lots of suggestions, authentic assessment, learner autonomy, nice words, current up-to-date notions, project-based learning, collaborative language teaching activities, team teaching. But is this the case in classrooms? What has been done to train teachers to be able to teach in these new ways actually? So the summary. The new purposes, aims in the curriculum. Please, next one. Increasing motivation, willingness to speak, willingness to communicate. Next, please. So, to what extent have we achieved these curricular objectives? Here is the result. When we look at Global English Proficiency Index, you see where we sit. 70 out of 112. Global. And in Europe, 34 out of 35 countries. Penultimate one, the land before the last. We are so proud. This is the result. Despite studying English at the second grade until the 12th grade, this is what you have achieved. Materials. All these projects, equipping classrooms with technological tools, smart boards, appointing teachers, paying them salaries, and this is the result. I guess it's not a bright one. You'll agree. We just keep complaining. Why? Most of the time, these curricular papers or decisions are made by the top guys who live in these stone houses, not the practitioners. They make plans that might work in a class with 20 students. The reality, you will have 50 students in the classroom. How can you run a communicative exercise, activity? How can you include them in games? Digital game. The school has no internet, no overhead projector. There are no standards. Even in the same city, depending on the district, region, one school is better qualified in terms of technology infrastructure, one is very poor. So, these are not actually achievable at a nationwide level. Now I'm going to refer to some findings from a joint research conducted in collaboration with British Council and a Turkish organization. Yeah, we might just move. The results based on observations of certain schools at different regions of Turkey, all around Turkey. Certain schools were selected and observations were made. whether the teachers can follow the curricular objectives or reach them or not. The next one, it shows that despite the curriculum, let's say elevating, promoting communicative competence, new methods, this is what happens. Traditional approach is still prevailing in classrooms. Grammar-based exams. Look, if you're going to teach English communicatively, you should also develop communicative tests. Our test is pen and paper. Fill in the blanks, match the words with the pictures, maybe a couple of writing composition. It's all paragraph writing. Teachers, Galip, if you classrooms, back of important. Kind of activities. Traditional sitting doesn't let us do this. Traditional sitting, like mine, teacher dominated, right? I control the classroom. I can see everyone, but I don't know whether they are physically and spiritually here. They might be pretending to be listening to me. Mind at lunch, mind at home, somewhere else. In terms of, again, in is better, not 6, 5, not 4, 5. That was the rule. The idea, but it did differently. Again, students sit together in person, bench sit, but no communicative activities were observed in these classes. Failures. There are lots of suggestions. Use up-to-date materials, technology, digital tools, right? Games. You see, almost half of the teachers were observed. There were only course book, the holy book, provided by the government. Schools are not allowed to use supplementary course books. You will have to use what the state provides as a course book. You see, teachers' hands are tied. They cannot act upon freely. You are the agent, but you are not given any free space to act. Concerning the learner's needs, the conditions, physical conditions, no continuous assessment, but in the portfolio, busy. Their teaching load, workload is quite high, but the salary they get is quite low. There is also a mismatch. This also actually makes them lose their interest in their job. They also lose their job satisfaction. Just imagine yourself, you have to do something from which you don't get any satisfaction. How long can you continue enthusiastically? Not for a long time. The best from our national media, criticizing why we cannot teach English. What is your name? Alaikum salam. Done. We start with, this is a pencil in the secondary school. We end with very good at the high school. These are some critical issues about the language education. We made lots of investments, but the result, what we get in return, is not worthwhile. Problem. Why not English? Identifying problem is easy, but developing solutions, that's what matters. This is difficult. I can identify lots of problems. Some differences, some of the English and real life. We don't care about grammar. Speech standards. Variation. That the way Turkish influence natives No, right? No. I'm a native speaker. But I got my PhD from a UK university. But there was only one English. I was East Asian students, Taiwanese, and a couple of students from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. My students, my classmates were not English. But we insist as schools to teach English like in a standard way. And the standard speakers, their ratio, 3% among BBC speakers. Even in the local TV channels, ITV1, English. Once maybe Mr. Sadiq might have felt it because he frequently travels to UK. I just doubted about my English. If they speak English, what am I speaking? Because I failed to understand them for a few months. The TV impact, Hollywood effect. Next one, please. So seeing this problem, at least at the micro level, I was just thinking what I can do, to help these students, at least to get motivated to use English, to feel a real need, to be able to develop some positive attitudes about the language and learning and using it. So at that time, our dean and the director of the Minister of National Education, we came together and we started a project which we, as I mentioned in the beginning, we included all the international students from the Faculty of Education. The department, it didn't matter. Mostly from English language teaching, but we also included students from the other departments. The only should be able to speak English. We'll talk about the motivation. Also helping them see that in a similar be also used. In the move to the in your own context, it's a language that you can practice for a wide range of purposes. Next. Partners, the university, the International Relations Office, we cooperated together, especially while funding and identifying international students who might actually work in the project. We might just skip this. So just a second. Some snapshots, screenshots from the classes. These students teaching vocabulary for speaking purposes. They never ever taught anything about grammar. No grammar. Let's move on. A student even let me just and the teacher is Turkish. Whenever students are stuck, they switch to Turkish. So there is no reason to use English because the teacher is Turkish. He or she can understand. So they don't feel this inner drive to use English. That was the main problem. But the Turkish writing level students. But you remember teaching Nigerian students communication in school with the Mr. This is but after meeting him, talk media spread we are quite Western oriented and often we follow PK TV channel. Polish students are we found, we included them in the project. Come, the more the merrier. And it was quite successful. We gave them certificates. We returned for their time. And they were also quite a we had lots of phone calls from other cities to learn about the details of the project, how we could initiate this. But the main disadvantage, we don't receive that many international students because of the location and the medium of instruction is Turkish. I believe some bigger universities like the ones that are located in Ankara, Istanbul, they have a huge potential. They have lots of international students, especially exchange students. The major problem, if you have ever been to Turkey, number one problem will be, Mr. Sadek, language. Even the taxi driver. Who is the taxi driver? Often the first person for a foreigner to get into contact with, right? They can't speak English. And they have no desire to learn English. Additionally, that's even worse. They have no desire. Their language is currency, money. They like it. Numbers. Yeah. Then, after finishing this project, I just, in the second round, I said, we might just actually carry out a research. The research is based on whether these students improve their willingness to communicate after having classes with these students. And we can see the results. Can we move on to the result? Next. Yes. This just summarizes. I'm not going to go into the details. I don't know whether students are knowledgeable about statistics, one group test. So, next one. I'll just tell you the result, the simple stuff. As Islam orders us, make things easier, I make things easier for you. Next one. So these are the questions in the scale, like 16 item. It's all about classroom language, asking questions in English, answering questions in English, greeting in English, saying thank you in English, saying sorry. Just even sometimes the classroom language is fully in Turkish, in some classes, because the teacher has no self-confidence in his or her English. That's the problem. We also see such students in our classes. They're going to be English language teachers, but they can't speak English properly. So how would you provide input for students? Because teachers are the only source of input in Turkish classes. When the class is over, they have nothing to do with English. English remains in the classroom on the walls. Colors, seasons, outside, just Turkish. And we identified a significant decrease. That means studying with these international students increase these students' willingness to communicate, willingness to talk in English. So that's something quite useful for us. Because often the main problem, students has negative feelings and attitudes plus views about English. When you have a negative attitude toward an item, toward a person, it also influences your behaviors. You will shy away from it, right? You will avoid doing it. In this case, we just actually noticed that, this project and studying with these international students is something useful that improved their willingness to communicate in English. And in the second round, we said, let's take a look at their satisfaction. Whether they got satisfied with studying these students or not. And again, there are lots of items about, I'm happy being with the students, I think I have improved my English, I would be happy if I come again, something like this, similar questions. Let's just move on to the interview results that are much more illuminating. Numbers, I hate numbers, by the way. My mathematics teacher beat me once, and since then I hate mathematics and numbers. I prefer text. Here, on the left-hand side, you see the major themes, Like, as Dr. Salib said, fun element is a number one driver for learning, impetus. If they get fun, believe me, they learn unconsciously, without noticing, peripheral learning, especially around task-based learning. Here, studying with these teachers made lots of tasks and games. They were trying to complete the task, but they didn't actually, maybe they were not aware at that time, they were also using the language to fulfill the task. That was the point. Language learning was the secondary purpose. The prime purpose was to fulfill the task or play the game. You see, playing games, listening and singing songs, simple stuff. Teachers can easily integrate, not technology use, integrating technology into the practices. Pepper it, spray it, like a perfume. Opportunity for language use for the first time, a real language use. Possibilities towards language. This is a major goal in the curriculum as well. Make students love languages, language learning, and help them develop tolerance about differences, diversity, rather than having prejudices. Pakistan English, no way in my class. No, it's a richness. It exists. I might come across a Pakistani speaker and I might engage in a conversation. Possible. Now let's see the details. Just take a look at them. I'm not going to repeat them. It might digest them. But you will see from the remarks how game factor influenced their views about. So what does it mean? The meaning, the conclusion from these remarks, probably the in-classroom teacher didn't benefit from games or songs as much as these students did. Why? They are actually concerned about following the curriculum. Teach this grammatical item, teach this group of words. But here the students were just interested in communicating with them. So it gives us lots of implications. Maybe English should not be like a subject like maths, geography. No marking maybe, just let them have fun. Play with the language. Use it. Don't mark them. What if you mark their English scores? A. Yeah, the students got A, but they cannot communicate. So what's this? What's the point? I hit 100 from the grammar exam. I can't utter a couple of sentences automatically. What's the point? There's no point actually. The parents are happy because the score is high. A. 5 out of 5. Some parents are happy with these scores. And sometimes you see the positive attitudes. Studying with them was fun. They developed positive attitudes. They even developed a desire to continue to study with these students, but which was impossible. Once a week, per 2 hours. They are like friends. This also gives us some information about teacher-student relations. We are in the 21st century. The tradition was authority, autocratic, sit down, stand up style. You have to find some kind of middle ground with these students. You have to touch their hearts. Honestly, sometimes there are some teachers who do their best and the students notice it. They adore them. They set a very good role model. Opinions about the contribution, mostly about the language development skills, especially when it comes to vocabulary learning, speaking. They also said they increased their marks as well. Maybe this is not scientifically proven because this comes from their interview for self-reported data. So we should see the results. Okay, look, you might just take a look here. They were even asking whether the students will be there for the next class, for the other class. You can imagine how happy, how satisfied they were with these student teachers. So these are all their feelings. The grades increased. And here we might just stop. This is quite important, so I'm going to read it a lot. Just this one. I didn't want to speak English in classes before because everyone speaks Turkish. True. But after I studied with foreign students, I realized that English can be spoken even in Burdur Dets mostly, which mostly consists of locals and civil servants that come from different parts of Turkey. You see, a global English awareness. This is what we are trying to do. Raising their awareness that English might be used anywhere, even in their school context, even in their classes. But they just understood this when they just interacted with these international students. So in conclusion, I don't know whether I fulfilled these 30 minutes. If not, I might. No, okay, students say no. I'm student friendly. In conclusion, especially policy makers, the guys that live in the stone houses, they should definitely involve the real agents, teachers, practitioners, who actually put the policies into the practices. Oh, I might just sit here, make lots of nice decisions, but it's Ghalib's duty, right? Ghalib is going to put these decisions into practice. Ask him whether these policies are realistic or not. They never do this in Turkey. Top down. They make the decisions, they hand the decisions to you, now you're in a position to put them, implement them. But how about your resources? How about your training? New IT tools, but I don't have it. Even if the IT tool is there, I have no training how to use it, right? How can I use it? No training. Gamification, Second Life. We have teachers at the age of 45, English teachers. They had trouble during this COVID-19, you know. They said the laptop is not working because if you do not turn on, it doesn't work. The cable is unplugged. They call the IT guys. I have a problem with the laptop. You see, digital natives, non-digital natives. If you fall behind technological advances, even if you have the facilities, it all comes down to human agency, us. We should be also equal. So again, it brings us to teacher education curriculum. Hocam, do we have any courses on technology IT? 1 or 2, simple classes. How to use Word, titles in Word, table contents in Word. Gone to a 19th century stuff. So, my final word, again, whatever the policies are, it all comes down to one factor, teachers. If teachers take the first step in the right direction, it's going to happen. So thank you so much for your patience. Now I'm taking the right step and leaving the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for enlightening